What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, and back with another, well, actually, I guess this is kind of the first Perfect Circle video, but I did a guide on Perfect Circle format. If you want to see that, I released it the other day, so check that out if you want. And this is a great format so far. Perfect Circle format is the format held in SJC Orlando, I believe, in 2008, January 2008. So it used the September 2007 limited list. It's one of the more iconic formats of the GX era, largely because of the deck that dominated that tournament, Perfect Circle Monarch. This is a very, very powerful Monarch deck. Basically, you're using Rise of the Storm Monarch and Phoenix Boom Windblast to spin things back at the top of your opponent's deck, while also getting some advantage off the things you pitch off Phoenix Boom Windblast, like, Disc Commander, which you search out off of Stratos, and also Mali. And it can do a lot of cool stuff. It also has the new boss monster, Light and Darkness Dragon, which you can get out pretty easily with things like Gravekeeper's Spy, or just setting up, Treeborn Frog and Mali as well. There's a lot of ways you can get out Light and Darkness Dragon. Once you do have this out, it is a house. It's very hard for your opponent to deal with, and it can just solo the game on its own. So the build you see in front of you here is the last winning list from the last format library tournament in Perfect Circle, won by Splevin here. And this is a pretty slick list. I felt like I couldn't really do much better without having played the format myself. And so we just loaded up and went into some games with it. Just going through the other cards in the deck, we got a break with Magical Warrior. We've got double DD Crow because Perfect Circle Monarch's very good. And so this is sort of like our main deck hit for that. But it also does hit other decks in the format as well. So it's a pretty good card to have here. Of course, if you go up against a deck that's not Perfect Circle Monarch, you might want to side this out for something else. But for now, it's pretty good. We got DD Warrior Lady, can be searched off of the double Rota package here, along with the Exiled Force and the Stratos, Fearmonger, and Disc Commander. Fearmonger can bring back a Disc Commander, which is very nice, and does come up quite a bit. We got a DMOC here as our other two tribute boss monster, again with Gravekeeper Spy, Reaper, Treeborn Frog, etc. There's a lot of ways to get two tributes on board, and bring this thing out is incredibly strong. We've got the triple Gravekeeper Spy, as I mentioned. This is very good for getting tributes on board. Light and Dark Dragon, triple Ryza, Sangan to search out a variety of things from our deck, Reaper to rip a card out of our opponent's hand or just, sit on, and Treeborn Frog because it's a Monarch deck at the end of the day. For our spells, we got a Brain Con, limited to one copy, very powerful in this deck. Triple D-Draw for our Destiny heroes here. We got a Heavy Storm to blow up our opponent's back row, an MST to blow up their back row, a Pot of Avarice to recycle things from our graveyard back in the deck. This deck can go through resources pretty quickly and get a lot of things in grave, so Pot of Avarice will be live more often than not. We got a Premature Barrier to bring back our monster from grave. We got double Rota, as I mentioned, a Soul Exchange because we are playing a fair amount of tribute monsters here, and that can be pretty good. We've got a Call the Han to bring back our monsters, a Crush Card Virus. There's a lot of things you tribute off this. You can tribute a Mali, you can tribute a Fearmonger, Disc Commander, DD Crow, Reaper, Sangan. I mean, the list just goes on, and it's a very powerful card using its original effect, not this errated effect you see here. So you just tribute a dark monster with 1,000 or less attack, and then you destroy all monsters your opponent controls or that's in their hand that have 1,500 or more attack, and this effect applies basically for the next 3 turns based on whatever they draw. So if they draw into other monsters that are big, then those monsters are popped as well. Very strong card, very degenerate card. Although here I do think there are ways to play around it. It's not as toxic as many people view it as, but it is still a brutal card, and a lot of people don't like it. We got a Mirror Force here to blow up our opponent's monsters, triple Phoenix Boom Windblast, as I mentioned. We got a Torrential Tribute to blow up the board, and a Death Shoot to spin back a card from our opponent's hand. For the side deck, there's double Cyber Dragon. This can be good against certain decks, but it can also be good just when we know we're going second. We can get a tribute monster or a tribute fodder that is very easily. DD Survivor against macro decks. We've got a Jinzo to shut off traps. We got double Legendary Jiu-Jitsu Master against certain decks. This can be good to spin back a card top of deck. We got another Lad in case we need it. We've got Lightning Vortex to board clear. We got triple Deep Riz for more battle-focused decks. We got double Dust Tornado for more spell and trap-focused decks. Then we got double Pulling the Rug in case we know we're up against a Monarch deck. It can also be good against things like Gadgets or a variety of other decks that do play monsters that have an effect triggering on normal summon. Fusion deck is a bit of a meme. We're never going into this. But that's going to do it for the deck list here. Let's dive into some games and see how it actually plays. Okay, first game we got is the typical sort of Perfect Circle Monarch mirror match that you'll see in this format quite a bit, but it's a very, interesting matchup, very cool matchup. So even though, people often don't like mirror matches, I think this is a very skillful one, and it can lead to some great games, as you'll see here. Our opponent's going first, though, so they're just going to go for a D-draw, pitching a Mali. That's unfortunate for us. So they get to draw 2, and then they get to go for Stratos, searching out probably a Disc Commander here. Yep, there's the Disc Commander. And then they get to banish the Mali for a Mali. This is very worrying because it means that they probably have a Crush Card Virus. That's generally the reason why you'd use up the Mali like this. And then they're going to set 2, pass back to us. And yep, they probably have that Crush Card. They are going to go for Dust Shoot first. spin something back just in case we've got something that we actually want to get engrave. I think honestly you could maybe save the Death Shoot for after crush card, but I guess this also tells you whether you want to shotgun the crush card now or later. But that's quite unfortunate because we will lose this Sangan here. So the Sangan gets spun back to the deck, and then crush card will go off to snipe our Light and Darkness Dragon. I think they probably could have saved it because we don't have a way to deal with the Mally there. So they could probably have waited till like next turn or the turn after, but I think this is also fine. Puts us in a really tough spot. And yeah, this is not looking good for us. Now, as a fun fact, if we actually had another monster destroyed with Light and Darkness Dragon, the Light and Darkness Dragon would be able to bring that monster back because, you know, this just triggers when it's destroyed, not just when it's destroyed on field. So that would be something that you have to be wary of whenever you shotgun crush card. But with the Death Shoot, they knew that we did not have that online. Maybe that's actually why they held or why they didn't hold the crush card, because if we had drawn a monster that actually could have been brought back by Lad, it could have actually been pretty bad for them. So that makes some sense. But we're just going to set a TT pass back to them. They know about TT, but this does keep them sort of like on one monster unless they want to lose their entire board. So they're just going to attack in with that Stratos there. So we're going to take 1800. They're going to set one, pass back to us. And we draw into his... No, we do not draw into Sangan. It turns out we did not shuffle our deck, so we'll just shuffle that back real quick. We were able to check the log there. We draw into a Spy. So Spy is pretty good here. We can set Spy and just wall off against that Stratos. It does get under Crush card, so hopefully we can wait out the rest of the Crush card there. They're just going to set one, pass back to us, and we draw into Mally. Mally isn't the best here, but if we can get it set up, then we do have Crush Card Virus online. So now we have a reason to set the Phoenix Boom Blast. So, you know, it's not bad for us here. We're going to think about this because something we could do is we could flip up Spy, use TT, get out another Spy after the TT blows up the board. That is an option we could do. I think it's a little bit aggressive. But, you know, we do a Phoenix Boom Blast to spin something back after we attack them with Spy. So there is that option available to us. I just think it's better just to play it safe and wait. We can save our TT for a bigger moment in the future. They're just going to attack into our set. I mean, they know it's Spy, so I'm not sure they had to do this necessarily. But they're going to do it anyways, probably because, you know, they know about TT and they want us to lose more monsters than we would otherwise. This does make a third Spy in deck a bit dead. But we're just going to wait on the TT because we don't really need to do it on this board. We can save it for when they go for a Ryza, just like that. So they're going to target our new back row, not the TT. So we're going to chain the TT first, and then we're going to chain the Phoenix Wing to spin back the set card there. I could have also spun back one of the monsters because TT activated first there. I think the only one I'd want to spin back was Spy, and even then I don't really want to spin back Spy because Spy is pretty decent. I could have spun back Ryza because I do have Crush Card plus Mally set up, but if they have any way to disrupt that, then we're getting them back a very powerful card in hand. So I don't necessarily want to do that, so I'm just going to spin back their back row, and they're going to pass back to us. We draw DD Warrior Lady, which is pretty good. They do have Mind Crush here for the Crush Card Virus, so they are able to snipe that out of the picture, so I'm very glad I did not spin back the Ryza, but very good Mind Crush. We will summon out the DD Warrior Lady here. So they will get to know our entire hand, but I do think it is better just to attack in with 1500 here while we can, and then just pass back to them. They know the last card's pre-mat, so no point setting it as a bluff. They're going to go for Card Trooper Mill 3 and then attack into our Warrior Lady here. We are just going to banish this because we don't want to give them the draw off Card Trooper. So we're just going to banish them both. We do take 400 from that, and we are very low on monsters, but we do have this pre-mat here. We also have a Mally and Grave to set up for that. So, I think about this quite a bit. D-Draw makes things a bit interesting here, but I actually have a kind of a neat play that I can go for now, which I will indeed try and do. So I feel like since they're playing Perfect Circle Monarch, there's a high likelihood that that set card that they have is a Phoenix Boom Blast. And so I'm actually going to go for the Mally, hope to bait them into using the Phoenix Boom Blast, and then get that back on top of the deck, Destiny draw it away, and draw 2 cards. That's my current plan. It's not the best plan in the world. There are other things that can be, and we will indeed see what one of those things are there with a Dim Priz. But honestly, I'm okay with the Mally getting Dim Priz. It's like not the most valuable thing to get engrave. And still did trade 1 for 1 with something. We can then have our D-Draw online for later when we go into like a Stratos or something here. But if it was Wing Blast, then they would have spun that back to the top of the deck, and then next turn we could D-Draw it away, draw 2. So I thought that was a bit of a neat play. I don't know if that was the correct play. Maybe it was better just to wait and then leave a Mally in deck as another D-Draw target. But I feel like it was a funny thing to do, and it would potentially get our stuff going online a bit more quickly, and also use up a Phoenix with Moonblast, which is a very powerful card. So I think it was fine. They're going to set 1 And we did see a Dimpriz, so there is risk to attacking in with Sangan here. But if they got Dimpriz, I want to see it. I'm going to attack in, see if that goes through. It doesn't need to go through, and we're going to pass back to them. Again, there was another line we could have done here. We could have just set the Sangan or just normal summoned it and passed. But I feel like if we're too afraid of Dimpriz, we're just never going to get in and kill them. So I just need to go for this while I can. And they've got other ways to deal with the Sangan that's like set or on the field, like DD Worley is a thing, and also Knock is a thing. I'm not sure if they play Knock in the main, but it is an option that they could go for. Stratos is perfect here. We can go for Stratos targeting Disc Commander, and then go for a D-draw here to pitch that Disc Commander, draw 2 more cards here. We draw into another Destiny draw, which is not bad, along with this Ryza, which would be very good if the Sangan is still on field in a bit. We're going to attack him with Sangan. We do run into the Dimpriz there. That's kind of unfortunate. We'd like the Sangan to go to grave, but, you know, it is what it is. I think it was, well, maybe with the second back row there, maybe it's like I could read it as a Dimpriz, but I could have just attacked him with Stratos here instead of attacking the Sangan, save the Sangan for a Ryza tribute, but I feel like we're in a fine spot because we got pre-map for Disc Commander to bring back as well. So it doesn't really matter too much to us to lose the Sangan because we're in a very, very good position. They're going to bring out Breaker attack over our Stratos there because it does hit over, and then they're going to pass back to us. We draw a Gravekeeper Spy, which is not bad. It does wall off against the Breaker, even if we don't have 2 more copies left in deck. We're going to go for pre-mat, and we're going to try and target the Disc Commander there. And they're going to think about this. And they are ultimately going to Phoenix Moonblast, pitching the Disc Commander of their own to spin back that pre-mat. Now, we actually have a bit of a choice here. We could set the Gravekeeper Spy to try and set up our Ryza next turn, but if they've got a Ryza of their own, then they can spin back a Gravekeeper Spy and prevent us from drawing into the pre-mat next turn. Also, you know, if we set Spy, it does shuffle up our deck even if they don't have Ryza, and so the pre-mat will get shuffled back in. We want a Disc Commander to draw 2 cards in the future. So I actually think in hindsight, the best case scenario for us here is actually just to pass on this board, not commit anything to board here. We're drawing into pre-mat next turn. We can go for Disc Commander, draw 2, tribute over the Disc Commander for Ryza. Sure, they could have something like MST or something like that there, but then we can just set the Gravekeeper Spy after that and go for that play there. But instead, I do just set the Spy and pass back to them because I figure Ryza should be good enough here to carry us if they don't have a Ryza of their own. But unfortunately, they do have the Ryza. They're able to spin back the Spy to the top of the deck, and now we're in a bit of a tough spot. So I think this was a misplay on my part, but again, this matchup is very, very skillful. This is my first time playing it, and so I'm not quite used to all the nuances of it. But we'll set that Spy. They go for a Rhoda on DD Warrior Lady here. Pretty powerful play, but instead of going for the Warrior Lady, they're going to summon out a Reaper. That might have been their last Warrior in deck, which is good information for us. I mean, they probably don't have an Exiled Force, and also if they had Exiled Force, they probably would have gone for that. Tributed, popped our Spy, and then just attacked in for 24, because that's a very, very good clock on us. But this is a very illustrative search there off Rhoda. They're going to go for the Reaper here, attacking in for 300, pitching a card from her hand. We lose the D-draw, which is unfortunate because that would have been a decent one if we draw into a hero monster here. Avarice is also pretty good, though. We can go for Avarice here. And I have a bit of a choice here. I have 6 monsters in graveyard right now, so there is debate about what to leave there. Disc Commander is good to leave in deck because, you know, it's in, or not in deck, in graveyard, because we can bring it back with something and draw 2. That is an option. But I ultimately decided to leave the Lad in graveyard because we draw into Lad off this Avarice, then that is a brick. We can't really use that this turn, and so I don't want to shuffle the Lad back in because I want to value like getting better draws here rather than potentially setting up a Disc Commander combo. But this might have been a mistake because, you know, Lad doesn't really do anything in graveyard, and if I do draw something like Pre-Mat or Call off the top, then it's a bit worse for us. So, I mean, Call is bad for us either way. We lose the game if we get Call, but if we draw into Pre-Mat, then Pre-Mat into Disc Commander is very, very good here. But I think, like, doing this for 1 card does not really make too much sense, so it is better to leave the Lad in grave, ultimately, in my opinion. We don't draw into either of the cards we had there. So we're just going to go for Soul Exchange, tribute out Ryza, target the Reaper, and then go for that. And the reason we do this instead of the other way around is because we Soul Exchange target Reaper, then Reaper would destroy itself before we contribute it for the Ryza, and then we just lose the game. So we do have to do it in this way. We also could have potentially set the Dust Shoot and then just attacked into Reaper with the Ryza after spinning Dust Shoot to the top of our deck. But Dust Shoot is a major brick for us at this point in the game, so I really don't want to do that. I'd rather just set the Dust Shoot as a bluff. I could have potentially kept it in hand in case we top deck Phoenix Moonblast. That is potentially the better option. But I'm very, very low in terms of life points, so if they draw like Brain Con, I don't necessarily want them to just go Brain Con, attack him for Ryza. I want them to have a bit of pause there. So maybe this was a mistake, though, Because if I draw Phoenix Wing, then it's really bad for us. But we do draw into Rhoda. So Rhoda can get us into Exiled, and then Exiled can pop that set Reaper. And it is indeed the Reaper there. We're able to attack in for 2,400 with the Rise Up. And now they're down to 1,100. We're going to pass back to them. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. And we draw into a Call. Call doesn't really do anything for us here. I just set the Call in case it's Morphing Jar. Not a typical inclusion in these decks, but I don't know. It might be. We're going to attack into the set monster, and unfortunately for us, it's a Fearmonger, which means that they're able to bring back Disc Commander next turn. But it might not actually be that unfortunate for us, because we actually do have this Dust Shoot to then spin back a monster that they draw once they have 4 cards in hand. So they are able to bring back that Disc Commander here, and they're able to draw 2. But of course, it's going to be a bit rough for us, because if they draw into like multiple Rises, then we are in a really bad spot. Because Call on doesn't really save us there. We have to go Call on Exiled Force just to block damage, and that is very, very rough for us here. Yeah, it's just not looking too good for us depending on what they have. We go for a Dust Shoot here, see their hand. They've got a D-Draw, a Rhoda, a Call, and a Warrior Lady. So not the most impactful Dust Shoot, because we spin back the Warrior Lady. They can just get it back with the Reinforcement of the Army. But it is good to know about their hand at least, and know that they've got to Call the Haunted. Call the Haunted can be very rough for us depending on what they want to bring back with it. They've got a pretty stacked graveyard. They can go for damage with something like Ryza. They can also just bring back the Disc Commander once it's in grave again, get 2 more draws. So it does make things a bit awkward for us here. We have to send back that TD Warrior Lady there. Glad that they have the D draw, because that's kind of a dead draw for them at this point. But, you know, they, again, do get back the Warrior Lady with the Rhoda there. And we'll have to see exactly how this turns out for us. It might turn out pretty badly. They just summon out the Warrior Lady, and then they will attack in to the Ryza. This is a very, very risky play for them, but I think it ultimately potentially does pay off. Actually, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. They probably could have set that and been fine. Yeah, it is just very, very risky for them. But they don't know what we have, so, you know, maybe they figure because they've got the Call to do things later as well, they can, like, bring back Ryza in a turn or 2 and kill us here. They just need to clear that Ryza right now, so they can set up that play. So I think that might make sense. I don't know. It's a very controversial choice there, for sure. But we've got Rhoda. That's going to be pretty good for us. We can go Rhoda on Stratos, then Stratos search out a Disc Commander here. So we're able to get that set up with the Call potentially in a couple turns. And now we actually do not attack into the Disc Commander, because we know that they've got Call. Now I could take the gamble that they don't draw anything good off Disc Commander, and giving the Disc Commander there as bait to bring back, when bring back something like a Ryza might be a bit better for them. But I think it is ultimately good just to leave that on field. Although, again, this is another point where there is debate here. Like, it might be better just to attack into Disc Commander, clear it from field, so that way they can't do something like Call the Haunted on Stratos, pop our back row, right? That is something they can do in this current situation. Yeah, and then actually I could have... Okay, so yeah, actually it might have been better... Actually, I think I did make a mistake here. I think what I should have done is I should have attacked in with Stratos into Disc Commander, then gotten Call the Haunted for Exiled Force. And then Exiled Force does threaten lethal if they bring back Disc Commander, and also does pop whatever they bring back afterwards. Actually, the better play here would have been Call the Haunted, bring back Exiled Force attack over Disc Commander, and then attack him with Stratos, because then if they choose to bring back Sangan to play around the Exiled Force, they still lose the game because Stratos attacks over Sangan and kills them. So yeah, I did indeed misplay here. The better move would have been to Call the Haunted de-exiled in main phase 1, and then go into battle, attack over the Disc Commander, and then attack in with Stratos. Although actually, no, that still would have been a bit awkward here, because then they go Call the Haunted on Stratos, pop our Call to pop the Exiled Force. But I mean, ultimately, it still puts us in a better spot, because we don't want them to bring back like Bryza or something. And this gives them more options. It forces them into the Call the Haunted on the Stratos, which I think is not the worst option for us here. So yeah, I think I just misplayed this turn. I think I should have actually attacked in Disc Commander, even though it does seem weird to do so. So, you'll live and learn, though. It's a weird matchup, and they draw into MST here, so we lose the Call the Haunted anyways. And, you know, again, hindsight's 2020, and you shouldn't base this based on just results. Like them drawing MST, that could have been a variety of things that cooked us here. But, yeah, I think I probably just should have gone for the Exiled Force off the Call last turn for the reasons that I outlined here. But they're able to go for Call on the Ryza, and now we're in a tough spot because they've got a really aggressive monster here attacking in to our Stratos there. And we got to hope we get a pretty good top deck here. Luckily, we do. We draw into a Gravekeeper Spy, and there are plenty of Spies left in the deck now. So they're going to attack into that Spy. We're able to bring out another Spy here and get a Tribute Fodder set up, potentially, if we want to go for that. yeah, it's just more options for us here. We drop pre-mat. Pre-mat can be a bit risky for us here in case they've got a way to disrupt the pre-mat. Because we go like pre-mat, target Exiled Force, for instance, and then they spin back the pre-mat with Phoenix Wind Blast, then that is really bad for us because we are down to 800 life points exactly. Pre-mat's just a brick, and it does not work out the best for us here. So that is a bit scary, but I do think it might just be the thing that we have to do here either way. So I will indeed go for it. Because, you know, if they've got Phoenix Wind Blast, we probably lose the game either way here. They can just spin back. I mean, I guess they do need another monster in order to win through spinning back, like Disc Commander or Spy. But it's still, you know, probably the best thing to just go for it here. Because Phoenix Wind Blast does put us in a really bad spot. So we'll pop their board there and then attack into the Disc Commander. A lot of these Perfect Circle Monarch decks do not play Sidra, so I'm not too concerned about Sidra coming down and beating over Spy, but that is a potential way we lose the game here. So it is good to know about, but they've gone through 30 cards in their deck. We've seen no Sidras, which is unlikely if they're playing multiple Sidras, which if you're playing one Sidra, you're probably playing multiple Sidras in this format. So I feel like it's a reasonable gamble to take. We draw DD Crow, which is, I mean, it's okay. They've gone through their Call of the Haunted, which would be the main thing that we're worried about here. So we're just going to attack in with the Spy. They did indeed have the TC set, so I'm very glad I did not flip up the Disc Commander to play around like Dimpriz. If DD Crow had a little bit more attack, I might have just flipped up the Disc Commander to play around Dimpriz, but either way here, I'm just going to attack him with the Spy, see if that goes through, and it will indeed go through. So we're on to the game 2. So, you know, as you can see there, like the misplays we made in game 1, they were important, but they were also things that like take a lot of thought to actually think of, a lot of skill to actually put into practice. So, you know, it does make it a very skill intensive format, I think. Like that was an intense game 1, and game 2 is going to be just as intense. They're going to go for Rhoda, target Stratos, bring back a Disc Commander to hand, and then just pass back to us. We will just set a Spy, set the heavy. We're trying to pro set the heavy Storm there and bluff them out. I could have potentially set the MST instead, but I don't think it's likely that they set up a Disc Commander Engrave for pre-mat on this turn, so I don't really need the MST right now. They're going to attack into our Spy. Spy will bring out another Spy, and I'm feeling pretty good about that. They're going to set one, set another, pass back to us, and we draw into a D-draw, which is perfect with this Mally. We go for the D-draw first. We could have gone for Rhoda first if we wanted to, but I feel like it's better to go D-draw first just to know what we're drawing, so that way we can plan around what we search out with Rhoda. Hopefully we don't draw the second Mally. That'd be rough, but we do not draw the second Mally indeed. And now we've got a couple different options here. We do have Heavy Storm set, so we could pop their back row, especially since we do have the MST and the Breaker in hand, which provides us with more spell and trap pops in the future. It also does insulate our play a bit in case we want to go for a major push here. We are just going to go for the heavy there, go for the Breaker. They do DD Crow our Mally here, just to banish it out of the grave, so that way we can't do plays with that. I think that is a smart play, but I think probably it's better to do that before we summon out Breaker. But we did play this a bit quickly. I think they might have been trying to do this before we summoned out Breaker, because they were typing in chat and I just summoned out Breaker. So I should have waited to see what they had typed there. But either way, it didn't really matter for us here because we weren't going to go into Mally anyways here, so it didn't change much. But it is the smart play for them to Crow there before we summon out Breaker, which I do think they were doing. We're going to set this MST here and then just pass back to them. No need to commit the Torrential Tribute when we have 3 monsters on board, in my opinion. They're going to go for a Spy here, bring out another Spy in defense. And that's a bit worrying because it probably means they've got a Monarch in hand, and indeed they do. They're going to go for Ryza, spin back our MST, which has no targets on board. So now we're a bit draw locked here. I wasn't too concerned about this outcome because we do have Rhoda to search out what we need in case we do get draw locked, which we did. But we can go for MST on that back row there in case it is something. And then we're just going to set a TT here past, because we don't need to go for the exile this turn because they've got a full board of monsters here that I can blow up with TT later. So we're going to pass back to them. They're just going to attack over our Spy, not play into TT. I think that does make sense. And then they're going to set one pass back to us. We draw into a Phoenix Wind Blast. Not really anything to pitch off it yet. We can go for Rhoda to grab a Disc Commander or a Stratos here to search out the Disc Commander. That's probably the better option, although you could argue that in games 2 or 3, since they know we're on Perfect Circle Monarch as well, they could bring in Pulling the Rugs, and so the Stratos is potentially a riskier option. But it's probably better to bait out the pulling on the Stratos rather than a pulling on a Monarch here. We're going to search out that Disc Commander, set a Phoenix Wind Blast, and then pass back to them. they're just going to attack over the Stratos. We will let that go through because we don't want to spin back that Rise at the top of the deck to then give them another spin. But we draw into Sangan as well, so we're just getting a lot of things that can search here. So we are perfectly fine with this. If they do summon out another monster, we do have TT to blow up the board, and we do not care about losing that Sangan. We could also flip up the Sangan proactively and then pop the board with TT. That is an option because we get the Sangan search for something like Reaper, trying to rip a card out of their hand. But they've got 6 unknown cards here. I don't really think that's worth doing. I can play it a bit safe here. And so I choose not to do that ultimately. I could also go flip Sangan, TT, pop, and then get Mally to set up for a BrainCon play here. But that seems really, really bad. So I do draw into pulling, which I did side in here because we do know that they're on, Perfect Circle Monarch. So pulling seems pretty good to me there. But, pulling is a debatable side here. I'm still not the best at siding in this format because I haven't played it enough. So, I don't know if you're supposed to side and pulling in the mirror, but either way here, we got a juicy TT there. We are going to go for that TT, blow up the board, and then search out a Reaper because now they've got an empty field. And I know I said that it's a bit risky, when they've got all these unknowns, but I feel like now that we've cleared the Rises, we are in a better spot here. So we can bring out this Reaper, attack in for 300, try and rip a card out of their hand. They do have Dimpriz for that, but I'm happy to make that trade. We'll set a pulling pass back to them. They are going to go for a D-draw here, pitch a Disc Commander. That is very unfortunate. That might come back to bite us here. They're going to bring out a Spirit Reaper, and we actually could Phoenix Moonblast this if we want to, pitching the Disc Commander. But honestly, looking at our hand, the only thing we really care about losing is the BrainCon, because BrainCon is a way to out Reaper. Other than that, I think we're okay if we lose Phoenix Moonblast because we don't really have many cards in hand anyways. And Disc Commander obviously is good to get engraved, so I don't really mind losing it here. So I'm actually going to let that attack go through. They luckily do hit the Disc Commander, and then they're going to set 3 pass back to us. We draw into a Call of the Haunted, which is very good with our Disc Commander here. They go for a Call of the Haunted of their own. Oh, that is rough. We could potentially Phoenix Moonblast that, but I don't really want to because we don't really have anything good to pitch here. And also they just get back next turn. We don't really have a way to stop that. So that is going to be rough for us here. We will just let that go through ultimately because, again, we don't really have a good way to stop that on the following turn either. And then they go for Crush Card on top of that, tributing the Disc Commander here to get a peek at our hand. And this will let the Call of the Haunt stick around, so they can potentially spin it back off of a Ryza. If they're playing True Nade or something like that, it actually will indeed stick around as well for that. So that's very scary for us. We will go for Ringon just to pop the Reaper, and then we'll set this Call of the Haunted here, pass back to them, leaving a card in hand for the Phoenix Moonblast we have on field. So they are going to banish the Mally, go for a Mally here. This is prime Phoenix Moonblast material, so we could potentially go for the Phoenix Moonblast, spin back the Mally, and just give them a dead draw on the following turn. But I've got pulling the rug set, so I don't care if they bring out a Monarch here. So I'm actually going to let this go through, save the Phoenix Moonblast for later, and see what happens. So definitely an argument to Phoenix Moonblast there, but I do think pulling is pretty good. And they were trying to spin back their call to get back that Disc Commander on the following turn. Very cheeky play, but good play if they were able to pull it off. Luckily, they were not able to. We tried to a Treeborn Frog, which is very good for our Phoenix Moonblast to pitch. So I'm very happy that we drew that. We have a couple options here. We could go call the Haunted to bring something back and get in. We could go call for like Stratos, for instance, search out a Fearmonger, get in for 18. That is a pretty decent clock. We could also just go call for Disc Commander, draw 2 more, try and draw into like a Monarch or something, give us more discard fodder for the Wind Blast here. But I think, honestly, we don't need to push right now. We're in a pretty stable spot. There are 15 cards, so they might actually deck out here over time. They do draw into a Sangan, so they're able to attack in with the Sangan, drop us down by 1,000. We could have gotten call to bring back the Stratos to protect ourselves a little bit here, but I think it's ultimately fine. Fortunately, does not get added to hand because of Crush Card Virus, and that's the last turn on Crush Card, luckily, so it will indeed go to grave here. Or it's already in grave, but that was just there as like an illustrative thing. But DD Worley gave us another option to potentially bring back to deal with the Sangan there. So that is something to consider later, although with their Dimprizes here, it might not be the best to bring back. They're going to attack him with Sangan here. We are going to take another 1,000, and then they're going to pass back to us. We draw Light and Darkness Dragon. We can't set this up right now. It would be nice to set it up at some point because then that will actually negate the Sangan and negate a bunch of things here. But we do go for call, target the disc just to try and draw 2 cards because maybe that can get us a way to get into a Light and Darkness Dragon summon like Soul Exchange or something, which we have not used up yet. But they do have Phoenix Moonblast to spin back the Call of the Haunted, pitching a BrainCon. Glad to see BrainCon gone. It does let us get a little bit lower in terms of life points here. We will just set another Phoenix Moonblast here, just in case we need it, because we are down to 3,800, which is a bit low. If they draw into Premat plus some other things, they could potentially kill us here. So it's a bit scary. They go for a card trooper here. They are indeed going to mill 3. Now, on the declaration of this here, we can't actually... Now, I was thinking maybe we could spin it back and then get it to mill itself, but you can't actually do that because the milling is indeed cost. So they will indeed mill for cost here and buff that thing up to 1900, but now they're down to 10 cards left in deck. If we can survive long enough, we could potentially just deck them out, which is a reasonable win con here. So that is something that I might indeed play for. I'm going to go for Phoenix Win now on the card trooper just to get it out of here, because, you know, we are dropping pretty low. I don't necessarily want to drop down to less than 1,000 life points here. And also we got that Trooper and Frog engraved now for Monarch plays potentially. They go for a Heavy Storm here, which could be a bit bad for us, especially because they do already have a monster on field. So what I'm going to do is, unfortunately, I got to pitch this lad with the Phoenix Wing there, targeting the Sangan, and then I am also going to do Call the Haunted as Chainlink 3, target Disc Commander. Disc Commander does not miss timing because it's an if you can, and so it will not miss timing here. And we will get to draw 2 cards on top of that. And they lost some pretty good ones there of their own. They lost a TT and a Mirror Force. It made sense why they did it if they're trying to go for lethal. But luckily, we were able to draw into this Ryza here. And Ryza will indeed be summonable next turn because we do have Treeborn Frog engraved. They go for a card trooper, milling 3, then attacking in for 19. I think that makes sense, dropping us down to 900, putting us in a very, very tough spot. But we do get back that Treeborn Frog. We can tribute that out for a Ryza here, spin back that trooper, and then attack in for 2400. So we are feeling pretty good about this. Main 2, we're just going to set the Rhoda and the Mirror Force because Heavy Storm is gone. And if they draw into MST, I don't want them to hit the Mirror Force. You could argue that you want to keep one of these in hand for like a Phoenix Wind Blast, but we have already used up 2 of them, so I don't really think we need to worry about that much. And also, if we draw into Phoenix Wind, we just go for Rhoda and add a card to hand here to then pitch off the Phoenix Wing there. So I think this is ultimately fine. They're going to draw into the card trooper, which we know about, but they've got Treeborn Frog access online as well. They're just going to set 1, though, and pass back to us. Now, I have the read that that set card is the card trooper, so I don't necessarily want to attack into it. What I will do is just go for the Rhoda here and go for Exiled Force. I'm kind of curious why I did this in hindsight. I don't think this makes much sense, especially knowing that that might be card trooper, but I go for the Exiled Force anyways, just to pop the set, and luckily it's not card trooper, it's just a Fearmonger. So maybe I just had to read that it was like a spy or something, but I don't really care about spy at that point. So I think this was just a bad play on my part, but it did luckily pay off. I mean, we had Crow anyways to stop the Fearmonger and bring back Disc Commander, but I guess we do want to just get the Treeborn Frog and Raven, use Crow on that, but I don't think this was the right choice on my part. It didn't really make sense if I had to read that it's a card trooper, but never punished. Our opponent's going to T-set, pass back to us. We run to that Phoenix Wing there. So now we kind of regret putting everything on field. We're just going to pass back to them. I don't want them to necessarily draw into another card off the card trooper, even though deck out is a win con for us. You know, it doesn't really pay to give them another way to deal with Ryza and just kill us here. So I'm just going to pass back to them and see what they do. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw into a Pulling the Rug. We could set Pulling the Rug or Phoenix Wing. I think either one can make some sense here, but I'm going to set the Phoenix Wing instead. Because we know about the Trooper, if they've got a way to deal with the Ryza, like Smashing Around or Fisher or something like that, and they float the card Trooper, then that could be really bad for us. So I'm going to set the Phoenix Wing just in case. And they're going to Phoenix Wing back our Ryza, spinning that back to the top, and then they're going to go for a Trooper here, milling 3 off that, or no, milling 1. Okay, that makes sense. Get down to that 900 exactly, and they don't get too close to deck out. We are going to Mirror Force, drawing them 1 card, so deck out is getting a bit closer for them. And then actually in the end phase here, we are going to Phoenix Wing, spin back that new set there, so they can't activate it here, and we now get back the Treeborn Frog. They can't activate the Mind Crush because they've got no cards in hand. If they had just, you know, gone for keeping the Mind Crush on field alone and just having 1 card in hand, then there is debate whether we actually would have Phoenix Wing that, because the argument is that, like, we need a card on field to spin back with Ryza. It doesn't really do much just to summon it out, spin itself back. So we actually might have not Phoenix Wing 1 Blast there. I mean, I don't know. What's the past tense on Phoenix Wing Wind Blast? But Phoenix Wing Wind Blasted, maybe? I don't know. But either way, it would have changed things a little bit. I think in hindsight, the best move for them was probably just keep the Mind Crush because they know about the Ryza coming anyways. And so they just go Mind Crush, pitch the Ryza, even if we don't have a Treeborn Frog on field because we've held the Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. But I don't know. There are different arguments for that, I guess. But anyways, We are just going to tribute that Frog for the Rise of Spin back that Mind Crush, and we're going to attack in for 24. And they know that they've lost because, you know, they're drawing Mind Crush next turn. And their last card, I think, was also something that did not actually kill us here. So, again, maybe doing the Mind Crush would have actually kept them in the game, but they are very close to deck out. So there is debate over that. And I don't know, it could have turned out either way, honestly. So very, very intense games here either way. Very, very cool stuff. Yeah, this was just a blast to play. I love this deck so much. I love this match so much, even though it is a mirror a lot of the time. This matchup is just so fun, so intense. And as you can see, it's very, very skill intensive. There are plenty of points where both of these players here could have improved. But yeah, very cool stuff. Now, I also got a game against a non-Perfect Circle Monarch deck, so let's dive into that one now and see how it goes for us. Okay, we got a game against the World of Dark God, a frequent guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. We're diving in to the games here. And this will be against not Perfect Circle Monarch, so you get to see how the deck can do against that. And we have a really good opener. We're going to go for D-Draw, pitching the Mally, drawing 2, and Dust Shoot is going to be really good for us here. We get a peek at what they're working with. We're going to go for Creatures by Dust Shoot, and then just Phoenix Wing, and then pass back to them. I don't really feel like I need to commit a MSD here as well. Okay, this should be good enough for whatever they've got. I could have potentially, sort of committed it because we are Dust Shooting their hand. So I can take the biggest threat and then leave them with like spell and trap cards that I might want to snipe. But I feel like they're probably not going to set up a pre-mat or a Call the Haunted. I guess they can't set up Call the Haunted first turn, but they're probably not going to set up a pre-mat first turn, which is the main reason why I would set the MST. But we go for a Dust Shoot here, and it turns out they actually can set up a pre-mat first turn because they got Foolish Burial as well. They've got Mana Core of Darkness, Green Baboon, Defender of the Forest card to save return, and Phoenix Wing Moonblast. So that actually is a killer hand if they were able to pull it off, but luckily we got the Dust Shoot to spin back something here. Probably going to spin back the Manticore because if they go Foolish, then they can actually set up a Manticore loop here where you just send one Manticore, bring back another, send the Manticore again, and then you just, keep looping those Manticores with card save return on field to just draw like infinite, which seems to be what this deck is trying to do. So, yeah, I'm just going to spin back that Manticore, get it out of here. They can still set up another Manticore with the Foolish, but, yeah, this is kind of rough for us. They go for the Foolish here, and they're going to send a Manticore to grave, and they're going to activate card save return here, go for pre-mat, target that Manticore. I do Phoenix Wing Blast, pitching the MST here to target the pre-mat. This was a mistake on my part. I should have pitched the Torrential Tribute to keep around the MST to pop the card save return, and also give a spell to bring back off DMOC after I go for the Spy flip here. I also could have used MST. Actually, the real way I would have used MST here, if I kept it in hand, just thinking about it, is if they don't just shotgun the Phoenix Wing Blast here to spin back our set, I flip up Spy and bring another Spy, and then go for MST on the Phoenix Wing Blast, and then if they spin back one of the Spies, I can banish a Mally, get out another Mally, tribute for DMOC, bring back the MST, and then pop the card save return. That would have been much better here because we know their hand exactly. We know that TT is not going to be the biggest threat for us. For them, that is. So we don't really need the TT. I think the MST is much better to keep around in hand. But anyways, they're going to set one, and then they're going to go for the Manticore here, pitching the Baboon to bring back that Manticore, and then drawing a card off the card of safe return, which is indeed the pre-mat there. We draw a Call the Haunted here. I also could have spun back the card of safe return. That actually might have been a better thing to spin back here instead of the pre-mat, because they still get the draw of the safe return at the end phase, so it doesn't actually draw lock them here. But it would have been better to do that on the safe return, I think. Yeah, because then it also doesn't give them another pre-mat activation. So, yeah. You'll live and learn, though. It's tough when you go up against a matchup that is very unexpected like this one. It takes a bit to actually know what to do in the matchup. But I'm just going to flip the Spy now, and they're going to Phoenix Wing Blast, targeting another Spy. And, yeah, also, actually, they would not have a card in hand to pitch with Phoenix Wing Blast as well if I had gotten rid of the card save return. So another reason to go for that. Actually, they would have, because they would have been able to pre-mat back the Manticore, keep the Baboon in hand. So they still would have had access to it. But either way, I definitely misplayed that there. Luckily, did not end up mattering because our opponent just went for the Phoenix Wing Blast on the Spy flip-up. And we are able to bring out a Mally here, add back that MST. And then we can deal with everything they've got. We can MST their card save return, attack over their Manticore, banish that. And because it would not send to grave, they don't get to bring back Baboon as well. And we're feeling very good here. We set a Call the Haunted, pass back to them. They're going to set one, pass back to us. And we're in a spot where we don't really need to do much else. We just attack them with DMOC here. We'll set the Phoenix Wing, pass back to them. And they'll pass back to us. We draw a Heavy Storm here. We could potentially Heavy Storm here. I don't think we need to. We're just going to attack in for 28 with the Demock. Actually, we would have been able to win if we had gone for Phoenix Blast in the end phase of last turn. Just brought back Call with the Spy, and then, that is the end of the game there. So I should have done that. I did not. But, when you face a deck like this, like, I was kind of shocked by what it was, and it got me out of the right frame of mind. That is something that I need to work on in the future. I need to get better at doing that sort of thing. But here, I luckily do Phoenix Blast, spin back that card, me draw the pre-mat, so that also would do it here. But yeah, this should be lethal. And that is indeed the end of the game. So we're going into game 2. For the siding, I bring in some Dim Prizzes because I feel like banishing a Manticore or a Baboon is going to be pretty good here. But we'll actually see how this game turns out. We draw into a okay hand. We can bring out Reaper here, try and rip a card out of their hand. That is indeed what we're going to do. They've got an enemy controller, so that will indeed pop the Reaper. And then main 2, we're just going to set an MST and a Dim Priz here, pass back to them. MST for if they go for a card to save return pre-map play. And Dim Priz in case they bring out a Baboon or Manticore and try and attack in. They're just going to set 1, and then they're going to summon out a Glad Beast. Gladiator Beast, Bestiari. So it seems like this is Gladiator Beast. I was not expecting Gladiator Beast, honestly. From the Baboon and the Manticore, but I guess you can play it. It's just there aren't really too many Gladiator Beasts that are like beasts themselves right now at this point in the game. They bring out Octavius as well. Octavius, very non-standard Glad Beast here. It is one that you can play, but it is a bit awkward, to say the least. We're going to go for MST, targeting their Call, and they're going to attack him for 25. Honestly, hindsight, I think I probably should have let this go through. Octavius is honestly more of a detriment to them than a help most of the time, because you have to pitch a card from hand to keep it around every turn. But I do just Dim Priz this, just to get it out of the picture. Because I've got Mirror Force as well for like a Battle Stopper, so it should be fine. I set the Mirror Force, and then pass back to them. They're going to go just pass back to us. We draw into a Treeborn Frog. I don't want to commit that to field, because if they attack over it with a Glad Beast, that's kind of unfortunate for us. They're going to summon out a Bestiari here, attacking for 15. Honestly, I could let this go through. I think on hindsight, I probably should have let this go through, because Bestiari cannot summon out another Bestiari. I guess it could summon out another Octavius, and if they do that, then that's annoying for us. But Octavius then pitches cards from their hand, which I'm not too upset about. So, yeah, I do just Mirror Force this just to get the Glad Beast out of the picture there. But in hindsight, I probably could have held it. I draw into a Phoenix Wing here. I set that, pass back to them. And they're going to go for a Demakari here. So they do have a Glad Beast here. I can spin it back with the Phoenix Wing Blast. But I'd probably just wait until they go into Bestie and then chain this to the Bestie activation. They're going to activate Pre-Mat here, target the Bestie. In hindsight, I should have DD Crow'd this. It was a very clear play to DD Crow it. But I was sort of still focused on like the Manticore and the Baboon that I just held the DD Crow here. So that was, not the right move on my part, I think. This was definitely not what I should have done. They're going to attack in with the Demakari. I will Phoenix Wing Blast the Demakari, and that'll get shuffled into the deck once they bring out something else off the Bestiari here. So I think that was a misplay on my part. Again, I probably should have just DD Crow'd the Bestiari when they went for it, but they bring out a Laquari here. Luckily, we do have Soul Exchange to pair with a Monarch if we draw into that. We also have just Treeborn Frog to pair with a Monarch. I tribute the Treeborn Frog for the Monarch here. I think maybe this was a mistake. I could have just gone Soul Exchange instead, but I figure I spin back the back row, attack for Laquari, and then I'm going to find spot. But unfortunately, they do indeed have Pulling the Rug, so they are able to stop the Ryza here. So, if I read that they had been on Pulling the Rug, like if I had that read, then it probably would have been better just to go Soul Exchange, but you live and learn. And I'll definitely be playing things a little bit differently in game 3. They attack in for 3,600 here. I don't really have a way to stop that, and then they're able to spin back that Bestiari to bring out another Quarry if they want. They would just bring out a Demakari instead because it's more damage here. Demakari is like, it's an interesting Glad Beast. Not many Glad Beast decks play it, because it's not really the best most of the time. We'll just set a Call the Haunted here, pass back to them, and they're going to summon out Rescue Cat. Rescue Cat is not as good in this deck as it is in later formats because you don't have Sam Knight, so you basically have to go into like double Test Tiger or like Test Tiger plus Test Ape if you really want to play it. Test Ape's just really bad though in general, because it just did not do much for the deck, or at least not as much as you want. But they do get to go for Test Tiger, bring out a Bestiari, and then pop the set card here. So that will indeed be the end of game 2. Game 3, now that they know that they're on Glad Beasts, I will play this a bit differently. So they don't have that element of surprise anymore here. So hopefully that is enough to allow us to win this one. We go for a Stratus here, searching at a Disc Commander. And then we're going to set a Phoenix Wing, pass back to them. I think this should be fine. Maybe they draw a crazy hand. They're able to do something with it. But I think overall this should be ultimately okay. We're just going to attack in with the Stratos there for 18. And they do have Dimpriz for that, so we do lose the Stratos. And main 2, we're just going to set a DD Warrior Lady, pass back to them. They're going to bring a Bestiary here. They're going to attack in to our Warrior Lady. I could have just gone for Phoenix Wing, spun back the Bestiary, but I actually let this attack go through because we can just banish it, get it out of the picture. And they do take 100 there. So we draw into a Dimpriz, another good card to have here. Just going to set the Dimpriz, pass back to them. And they're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw a Cyber Dragon, not really the most useful thing here. They're going to Dust Shoot back our Disc Commander there, so that's a bit unfortunate. And now they know our hand exactly, so they can sort of play around that a little bit better in the future. They're going to think here they're going to go for the Rescue Cat and then bring out a Test Tiger and a Test Ape. So, I mean, something, I guess. They're going to attack in with those. I don't really feel the need to do anything against this. They're just 1,300 damage, and those monsters both die at the end phase. So I'm okay with that. They will destroy those, and then they get to trigger the Green Baboon in hand. They are able to bring that back, but we do have Dimpriz for that when that attacks in. So I feel like this is pretty fine. Fearmonger, unfortunately, a little bit too late. We also can just tribute the Baboon, which we do. We summon out Ryza and try and spin back that back row. I think in hindsight, this was a mistake. I should have gone Sidra first and then gone Soul Exchange. But I didn't think of it, and so I get a bit punished for that. Sidra is just good to have on field when you're facing off against a Glad Beast deck, because the Glad Beast just can't get over it natively. So it really prevents a lot of their attacks in, and so it is just good to have on field. So I did mess that up. But we'll have to see if it actually ends up mattering here. They're going to go for Murmillo. We are going to banish that with Dimpriz. Most of the Glad Beast decks just play 1 Murmillo, so I'm very glad to see that gone. I mean, they probably won't have another in the future here. We try into another Ryza, and I do a play that's kind of iffy, but like I just want to get aggressive here. And so I summon out this Fearmonger here, attack in for 1,000, and then set a Mirror Force. I feel like we've got ways to deal with it. They do attack in to the Fearmonger here, but it seems like they might be a bit low on cards, so I feel like this should be fine overall. We draw into a Demock. That's a great Phoenix Wing Moonblast pitch. So we're just going to attack in with Fearmonger yet again. They do call the Haunted there, target the Test Ape. That is A-okay by us. We're just going to pass back to them. Test Ape doesn't do anything on field, so we can just leave it there. They are going to set 1 and then just attack into our Fearmonger here. That is fine. They get our Glad Beast here with the Test Ape. But ultimately, I'm fine with that because it doesn't really do too much. They do get to bring out a Green Baboon, to be fair, but we do have this Mirror Force here to stop the Green Baboon and the monster that they bring out. Now, as a note, Test Ape does not treat the Gladiator Beast's summons as being special summoned by Gladiator Beast like Test Tiger does, so they actually will not be able to pull off the Bestiary effect here. So they cannot do that, and they'll just attack in to the Fearmonger with the Bestiary. We've got Mirror Force here. They've got Econ, so what they could do here is they could tribute one of their monsters, take control of the Fearmonger. It actually is really good for them to tribute the Green Baboon, take control of Fearmonger, and then once the Bestiary is destroyed... Oh, no, wait, you can't bring back Baboon off that, but either way, you destroy my Fearmonger, and that is the better option here, I think, overall. But instead, they try and switch their own monster. They can't do that, and instead of doing the other effect here, they just reset it. And so I'm not going to necessarily tell them that they can tribute to take control of Fearmonger, but if they want to do that, they could have done that there instead. Pop my monster and left me with no monsters on field, but I think, honestly, we're in a pretty good spot here either way. I think we're going to probably win based on, all the battle traps and all the ways we have to stop things that we do have. So I think we're in a fine position. They're going to go for a Foolish here, sending a Manicore of Darkness, which they will be able to bring back later. And they are indeed going to bring that back. They're going to pitch a DD Crow there for the Manticore, and they're able to summon that out onto the field here. And then they're going to pass back to us. We draw into a Cyber Dragon here. We're just going to tribute the Fearmonger for the Ryza, target the Manticore here. They're going to pulling that, but now we have no monsters on field, and they've got a monster on field, so we can go for a Sidra here, and then just spin back the Manticore with the Phoenix Moonblast here to get aggressive that way. I feel like this is pretty good because, Manticore cannot really be summoned from hand that easily. If you get the Manticore loop going, then that's something, but, in hand, it's kind of a brick. So we're just going to do that, and then we're just going to set the other Phoenix Wing, pass back to them. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw Premat here, so we can go for Premat, target the Demock if we so wish, but we got no real good spells engraved to do that for, so I just decide to just get aggressive with the 1 Cyber Dragon we have on field, attack in for 21. They've got the Econ to switch that to defense, and we're just going to pass back to them. This could be bad for us if they draw to Liquari, but we do have this Dimpriz here to stop that, so they're just going to set 1, pass back to us. We're going to switch that Cider to attack in with that. They do have the Book of Moon to set that down. We're just going to pass back to them. I feel like we're in a really, really good spot. They've got card save return. They're going to activate that and then pass back to us. And, I mean, this should be the end of the game. We just flip up the Cyber Dragon. attack in for 21. That will indeed be it. Yes, that was just a pulling the rug. So, I think this game both shows the power of this deck and also some of its flaws. Like game 2, we could have played that differently. I agree. And if we played differently, we would have been in a much better spot overall. Well, I'm not sure we would have been able to claw our way out of that one because we were just really down bad a lot of the game. We were not drawing into the pieces that we needed, and we were just kind of in a bricky spot. And Gladiator Beast can really take advantage of situations like that to just, out aggro the opponent. But, once you know your opponent's on Glad Beast, you can just bring in side deck cards to really, hose the deck. And also, game 1 and game 3, I think, showed how controlling this deck is. I don't really think we were in a bad spot at any point in game 1 or game 3. So, I think that, this just shows how good the deck can be when it's really firing on all cylinders. But let me know what you think about the deck and the format down in the comments below. Do you think that this mirror match is actually really, really fun and it's a good reason to play the format? Or do you just despise it and you're like, I want a format with more diversity? I think both takes are valid. People have different opinions on these things. Some people like formats that are very diverse. Some people like formats that are a bit more centralized, but very skill testing. And, not to say that diverse formats are not skill testing or anything like that, because they definitely are. But some people just like, one match they can really dig their teeth into and, make something happen with. So let me know what you think about the deck and the format down in the comments below, as I mentioned. And, as always, big shout out to my patrons, Ridspin, Porchupkin, Red Knocker, Tyler Compton, GeoMyFest, Dumbtruck, and Scott Zero. Head on over to the YGO from Zero Discord community if you do want to play in this format or any other format that feature on the channel. And like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff to help us grow even further. But that's going to be it for me. I hope you enjoyed as always. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, signing off. Peace.